Welcome back to So Many Comics, So Little Time. This is our podcast, and today we're going to be taking a look at kind of a random retro comic book review. As I occasionally this is Roger Lee, by the way, from So Many Comics. As I read comic books, sometimes I follow a organized pathway, reading an entire series or a storyline or story arc. And sometimes I start thinking, oh, I remember that comic book from when I was a kid. Let's figure out where it is and see if it's in my collection of graphic novels, or more likely in Marvel Unlimited or the DC Universe Online app, where I can read the digitized versions. So in this case today, we're taking a look at Adventure Comics number 420. And that sounds like a long time ago, doesn't it? So for Adventure Comics 420 is a comic book I read when I was a kid, and it came out in June of 1972. And no, I'm not going to say how old I was, but I was a kid. Excuse me. And 72 is about the year I started collecting superhero comics. So this would be, and this isn't my personal collection, and it's one of the first ones I would have purchased. So Adventure Comics, round number 380 or so, through number 424, featured Supergirl. And Adventure Comics was a anthology book, like Action Comics and Detective Comics started off as most DC Comics started off as, actually, that weren't named for a particular superhero. And over the years, different heroes would be the featured character. And how they usually did it is there'd be one, longer story at the beginning of the comic book featuring that featured character, in this case, Supergirl. And then there would be backup stories. Some would be original. Some would be reprints of previous comics. And at the time, when I first read this, there was a story featuring Animal Man, who's kind of a relatively minor DC character, but very interesting. And I remember when I was a kid, I was fascinated by this character and his powers to mimic animal powers, animal abilities. And I did not know at the time that was a reprint from his fourth adventure from 1965. And so that would have been from the Strange Adventures, a different book, number 195. 1966. I'm looking this up on dccomicsnews.com. And the name of that story was Animal Man, Hero or Freak. So I was thinking, for some reason my brain snagged on Animal Man. And it's like, oh, remember that comic book that I read where it had a story? And I remembered it was a backup story. And so I did some searching and realized, oh, it's Adventure Comics number 420, featuring Supergirl on the cover. And so using my DC app on my tablet, I looked it up and read it. And so now I'm going to review here real briefly. So the first story in this is the cover shows Supergirl throwing some kind of a weapon. She looks quite angry. And we see some people in three men off to the side saying, Supergirl is a mad killer. Our mind warp worked. So she's under mind control, apparently. And it looks like she's basically making some destructive work on a battlefield. So this was Adventure Comics starring Supergirl, is what it says on the front. Number 420, June. And it says it's a 52 big pages, don't take less. And this is back when they were expanding the books. And on the top, it says... also featuring Animal Man, there's a story with Starman, plus the monster from Krypton. So, let's take a look here. So, the Supergirl story is named, And Death Shall Have No Dominion. And if you are a literary person, you might recognize that as a line from a Dylan Thomas poem. In fact, Dylan Thomas is listed in the credits. So, it says, story by Raymond Maris and Len Wein. Pencils by Tony DiZuniga, inks by Bob Oxner, and then a little asterisk next to the title with apologies and thanks to Dylan Thomas, who was probably not alive to read that. So we see Supergirl flying through space, which is, the super family does that. And she is being chased by this kind of pinkish orb. And so she thinks, oh, this isn't good. So she flies through a dead star. The orb follows her. It explodes. And then she uses her supervision to track where it came from. And then we see 3 dastardly, villainous-looking dudes. They're villains because they're wearing masks. And turns out they are trying to draw her in to their planet. And so, and the little sidebar here says, once these 3 strange men were individuals, but no longer, for a mystic spell of tremendous power has merged our minds as one, forced them into the single evil entity called the Mind Warp. So, and of course, they have technology where they can watch her every move. And so she lands on this planet, and she meets a fellow with kind of a pale yellowish skin. And he introduces himself as, "Welcome, traveler. I am Togren, son of Vorko. What brought you here to the Garden of My Mind?" And she introduces herself. He says, "Look out," and they're under attack. And so this is kind of a Silver Age. This is Silver Age / Bronze Age story. We see some creative alien technology that and then tries to trap her. He uses the powers of his mind, which appear to be quite significant. The art is pretty good. A little bit, not overly detailed, but again, considering this is an alien world, it actually is. It looks alien. I mean, it does a good job. So she starts to sit down and talk to the guy, and it's quite obvious that she's kind of taken with him, handsome fellow, and then they kiss. Now, I don't remember exactly when I was a kid how I reacted to that, but it probably been like, ooh, yuck. But it is Supergirl, and hey, she's attractive, and so turns out her falling for this guy is part of the plan of the Mind Warp, one of whom is this guy's dad, and so part of the plan, they then throw in an attack on them. The guy Togren is killed, and then the Mind Warp starts messing with Supergirl's emotions, and she goes crazy and says, "All right, you madmen, you want war, you want death, then I'll give it back to you. I'll kill you myself. I'll kill you all. Kill." Which, of course, the super people don't kill, right? That's their moral code. So we see the father of the Togren go out to the battlefield, pick him up, use his powers to revive him, which was the plan. And then Togren, of course, is like, "No, you're ruining the Supergirl. I need to go help her." And so he's endangering his life. And then the dad, Vorko, goes nuts, grabs a sword, and then goes after his partners. And meanwhile, we see Supergirl destroying this enemy army on the other part of the planet. And Togren gets her to stop. But here's an interesting thing. We don't really see any follow-up on this. I mean, it's a one-shot story. We don't see reference to it anywhere else, as far as I know, in DC. And looking at DCFandom.com wiki, it looks like Togren and the Mind Warp never appeared anywhere else. But in page 9 of this book, we see her destroying weapons, and we see some wounded alien soldiers there. And you got to think, considering all the chaos and destruction, and this, also looking at what the cover version of the chaos and destruction, she probably killed some people. And it's like, we never see any reference to that. It's like, this would be like a big moral thing. And then Togren shows up, breaks the Mind Warp's a hold on her mind. He then dies heroically because he used up all of his last power to save her. And then so she, we see the bad guys doing each other in, and we see Supergirl saying, "Oh, and you died twice for the cause of peace, Togren. The wizards and their evil have been destroyed, Togren." How does she know that the wizards are dead? But not you. No, never you. Not so long as one flower blossoms or one blade of grass endures, in quotes. So, quoting a poem, obviously. So then she, and it says an ending, and we presumably she, flies off to go home. Yeah. This is actually not a bad story. My only real complaint would be, again, we're talking, if this was a modern day comic, it would probably a 3-issue story arc, which we'd see more developing of their romance. We'd see her dealing with the consequences of what she did under control of the bad guys. Obviously she's not responsible for that, but excuse me. Again, we see no moralizing. We see no, her dealing with the consequences of what happened, other than she's all sad about this guy dying. And so, again, it's not a bad story. The modern me wishes it had been expanded into like a 3-issue arc. I think it would have been quite good. But that's the Supergirl story, and it's not bad. It's kind of a standalone story. She's flying through space. She has an adventure, meets a guy. He dies. She goes home. So then the next story in this comic, and again, when I was a kid, I didn't realize this was a reprint from 1966. It's Animal Man, and it's my first instance of this with him. And again, I won't spend a ton of time on this, but it's kind of a cool story. And Animal Man, Hero or Freak is the name of the story. And it basically shows him dealing with some bad guys, and his power is has to be within close proximity to various animals to then borrow or mimic their abilities. And again, the creativity of the writers in coming up with this stuff is just, it's good. And I remember this story from when I was a kid, and I went looking for it. So it's like, it always stuck with me. And Animal Man's not a character I really have revisited, but this story just stuck with me. It was fun. These are fun stories. And then the third story in this book, because it's an anthology book, Adventure Comics number 420, volume 1, of course, is a science fiction story called The Starman. And once I'm flipping through, it's like, oh, I remember this. And again, I'm a big science fiction fan, and again, it's just kind of an interesting little story with a moral, right? Don't steal stuff. You might become a stone man of this alien planet. And then the final story, it's listed as a reprint from Action Comics number 303, August 1963. And again, it's one of those crazy red kryptonite issues where Superman is turned into this creature from Krypton that is so scary that even Superman and Supergirl have issues with it. And so he's turned into this creature, but he has his own mind. He's trying to communicate with everyone, say, hey, look, it's really me, Superman. And everything he does is misinterpreted as, oh my gosh, this monster from Krypton is trying to destroy us. And Supergirl shows up at the end, saves the day. So it's a Superman story with a cameo, I guess you'd say, from Supergirl. We also see the emergency squad from the Bottle City of Kandor. Again, this is total, perfect Silver Age stuff, and it's cool. We have Supergirl. We have Red Kryptonite. We have the Bottle City of Kandor, the emergency squad. And we have, of course, in the end, Superman is turned back into himself. And this one does not show... Looking at doesn't show credits of the art, but it looks like Mike Sukoluski is the artist, and of course I'm totally butchering his name. But here's the funny thing: this is perfectly Silver Age, right? So Superman is this alien creature, kind of cool looking creature with a imagine like a flying fur-covered giant snake with an alligator mouth and a unicorn horn or a rhino horn, and it can fly. He's turned, eventually the red kryptonite wears off after he convinces everybody, yeah, it's really me, Superman. And, of course, his uniform is like long gone, right? Because he can't be wearing this. And when he turns back into Superman, he hops down from this platform he's on, and he's fully clothed. It's like, where'd his outfit come from? Did like Supergirl, in the meantime, we're waiting, go grab a spare and put it up there for him? I mean, were there TV cameras there? I mean, come on, was we talking about naked Superman or what? Anyway, this is a fun comic book. If you have access to the online DC Comics DC Universe app, I couldn't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's a fun read. The Supergirl story is good. Animal Man reprint is good. The Superman Red Kryptonite story is entertaining, and the Starman extra little sci-fi, no superheroes but sci-fi story is also interesting. So this has been one of our retro reviews here, and so we'll do these on occasion for fun, because comics are fun. And looking back on my childhood, I just wanted to share with you, hey, this is a fun comic to read if you're into any of these characters: Superman, Supergirl, actually, yeah, 2 stories of Supergirl, and or Animal Man, or just the Silver Age / Bronze Age stories. Again, this is the Supergirl stories one. I kind of wish they would revisit and redo as a longer story arc. It's not a bad story. It's kind of a science fiction, outer space, aliens, mind control story. They don't touch on the morality or the ethics of what happened, but I think that would be, they could only put in so many pages, right? So this is Roger Lee with So Many Comics, So Little Time. If you like our what we're doing here on the podcast, please share. We also have a Twitter at so_many_comics, and we post stuff there all the time. So until next time, comics fans, we shall meet again. All right, take care, and happy holidays.